Dreamscape presents Shame by Ernaux. Translated by Tanya Leslie. Narrated by Tavia Gilbert. Language is not truth. It is the way we exist in the world. Paul Auster, The Invention of Solitude. My father tried to kill my mother one Sunday in June, in the early afternoon. I had been to Mass at 11:45, as usual. I must have brought back some cakes from the baker in the new shopping precinct, a cluster of temporary buildings erected after the war, while reconstruction was underway. When I got home, I took off my Sunday clothes and slipped on a dress that washed easily. After the customers had left and the shutters had been pinned down over the store window, we had lunch, probably with the radio on, because at that hour there was a funny program called Courtroom, in which Yves Deniot played some wretched subordinate continually charged with the most preposterous offenses and condemned to ridiculous sentences by a judge with a quavering voice. My mother was in a bad temper. The argument she started with my father as soon as she sat down lasted throughout the meal. After the table was cleared and the oilcloth wiped clean, she continued to fire criticism at my father, turning round and round in the tiny kitchen, squeezed in between the cafe, the store, and the steps leading upstairs, as she always did when she was upset. My father was still seated at the table, saying nothing, his head turned toward the window. Suddenly he began to wheeze, and was seized with convulsive shaking. He stood up, and I saw him grab hold of my mother and drag her through the cafe, shouting in a hoarse, unfamiliar voice. I rushed upstairs and threw myself onto the bed, my face buried in a cushion. Then I heard my mother scream, "My daughter!" Her voice came from the cellar adjoining the cafe. I rushed downstairs, shouting "Help!" as loud as I could. In the poorly lit cellar, my father had grabbed my mother by the shoulders, or maybe the neck. In his other hand, he was holding the scythe for cutting firewood, which he had wrenched away from the block where it belonged. At this point, all I can remember are sobs and screams. Then the three of us are back in the kitchen again. My father is sitting by the window, my mother is standing near the cooker, and I am crouching at the foot of the stairs. I can't stop crying. My father wasn't his normal self. His hands were still trembling, and he had that unfamiliar voice. He kept on repeating, "Why are you crying? I didn't do anything to you." I can recall saying this sentence, "You'll breathe
Sample complete. Ready to continue?